All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to round 12 of our eighth season here at IRC. I'm joined here by Deepak Raj. Deepak, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I think we have an exciting race here, and let's just move on to track guide. Right. So we are, of course, racing here at Imola today, a track with a total length of 4.909 kilometers. We have a total of 19 corners, but the action zones will be turns 2, 3, 4, turn 7, turns 14 and 15. We also have one DRS zone, which is, of course, at the start finish straight. That's it for track guide. Now let's move on to watch a hot lap.
Right, everyone, welcome on board a lap of Imola here in Italy, in the northern region of Emilia Romagna. Now, heading into the back straight, turn one, just a kink, all flat out, just ignore it. Make sure you activate the DRS before the finish line. For the Tamburello chicane, using all the track on the right hand side, using maximum amount of curb, maintain the minimum speed as high as you can to keep the car in complete balance. Heading into the Villeneuve chicane, you want to chuck the car into the left hander. Make sure you brake in a straight line to get a good exit. Now for Tosa, braking just after the 50, balance the car with the throttle because it is an uphill exit, so the rear does get light. And now on the exit, make sure you get a good one. Now for Piratella, watch out for the 50, braking just after that, flick the car in, maintain a high minimum apex speed again. And now into the dreaded Aqua Minerale. Again, the car gets very light in the rear here. You want to balance the car on the throttle with the throttle on the exit. Now for the Variante Alta chicane, braking just at the 50-meter mode. Make sure you decimate both those curbs on the entry and the exit to minimize the track distance. Now, preparing yourself for the final two corners, the two Rivazzas. The first one, maintain high minimum speed for the first one. For the second one, take a bit of a switchback approach. Make sure you get a great exit. And as you channel down the back straight, open the DRS, and as you come across the start finish line, that's a rapid hot lap by Helium from Tier-1.
All right, that was an amazing hot lap. Right now, we are, of course, tuned in for our quali here. Of course, as you can see, the weather forecast, it looks like it's going to be a very dry race till the end. But again, the clouds are out, which means that the track temperature would be lower than normal, which is, of course, good for these, tires. Of course, that means that these tires will be going, won't degrade as fast as they normally do. Of course, right now we can see that, of course, our short quali has started. It's 15 minutes remaining. We have drivers right now pushing for an outlap. Most of them, it's pretty much up to half of them are on softs, half of them are on mediums. What do you think, Deepak? What do you think? How fast do you think these drivers can push their cars today?
Yeah, these are the fastest drivers we have. I mean, it's kind of unfortunate that we are not having enough attendance and people are kind of going to the busy paces and life, but these are still the fastest drivers out there, so we can see some really great lap times. Of course, yes, right now it's not going to be very quick. It's going to be banker laps as you see Moto just pushing to the track limit, just going a little bit on to the outside. So it's definitely not going to be a very neat lap for him. But as you know, right now it's just going to be their banker laps. The last 2 minutes is where we are going to see all the times tumbling down.
Yeah, definitely. I think track evolution is always an important aspect when we're looking at quali, and of course this track needs to evolve a bit more with some additional running. I think in the end we'll be seeing, these drivers push into the 116, 115s maybe, which would be, or even maybe 114s, depending on how fast these guys can push. With depending also on the fuel level as well. You need everything to work in cohesion if you want that amazing fast lap to pop out. So your fuel has to be as low as it can. Your tires have to be in the optimal range and the optimal temperature range, and your turns need to be as accurate as they can. One small mistake and you're going to lose at least 1, 2, or 3 tenths a second.
Yep,
So
that's
now
true. F1 can be very punishing in terms of losing time in the mistakes, because a very small mistake could cost you a lot of time. And we see one of the first representative times coming through, Baba putting a 115.8. That's really good lap time, I would say.
actually, I didn't expect someone to put a 115 right now, and I guess that shows that Kapil is tragically off pace at this point with the 117. If the soft tires are going for a 115 and the medium tires as well are going for a 115.984, that means we could be possibly looking at, at the end, a pole position with maybe 115.1 or 114.8, looking at the current track temperature and the current track condition, because of course these times are just going to go on getting better and better and better. Of course, this is a good time to set a provisional poll for, am I saying that right? Right.
Yeah,
uh,
right. Right now it is. The conditions are looking pretty good. As we saw, the weather forecast was cloudy, so tires are going to be the optimal temperature window for quite a long time, and I'm pretty sure the drivers are going to make the most out of it, whatever that they're having right now.
Yeah, Deepak, the pole position, provisional pole position, right now, who is currently having that? Can you spell that name? Because I'm a bit new
Well,
to
it's Baba.
Tier-1. It's Baba, right?
Yeah,
Right. I didn't want to butcher that name. I tried to spell it for a second in my brain. I was like, that doesn't sound right.
yeah.
Yeah, but
Just
I think I'll just
Baba
call
G. We
him
just call him
Kimmy for a
Baba.
second. I think I'll just call him Kimmy. That's much easier. And I love the love the your description that he said. He said 2005. Mean, he's prime Kimmy with McLaren days. I think that's a bit of a bold statement, because I think prime Kimmy is probably one of the best primes we've ever seen from any driver. I think I can compare prime Kimmy to like prime Vettel or prime Jim Clark. Those are sort of you know the standard prime Kimmys. That, so I wonder how fast Baba can actually get. I'd love to see some new guys who might sit on pole, because if I'm not wrong, Moto, I think at one point I believe Kapil and again Aradhya, these three are probably the ones I think I could vote for them to be up on the top position today. Maybe get pole. Is there any other contender for pole here today, Deepak?
Well, Moto is a known contender for pole. You included Couple also. Well, Couple, he's not exactly known to be setting the timing sheets on fire when it comes to quali, but when it comes to race, man just somehow finds his way to the front. So he's that kind of a racer that we have. And looking at this, I think every single driver is someone who is capable of challenging for pole. It's kind of like an even field, I would say. It's all gonna
Oh
come
yeah,
down to who hooks up the lap better.
I think those are the words you always want to hear. Like everyone is close to each other at such a level that anyone can go for pole. It's anyone's game. It just depends on who can be more consistent at this point. But of course, it's very important to keep your quali. You're supposed to qualify as far up as you can, but at the same time, you have to make sure your setup is valid enough for the race, because of course there are two different setups. One you could suggest is a quali setup, and one you could suggest is a race setup. And I think some drivers prefer to keep a better quali setup than race setup. So that's when you see some drivers lose some of that enormous pace from quali in the race. But of course, hopefully we'll see, or we'll get an idea in the next few minutes of who is actually consistent on this track, because this is one of those tracks I feel is a really good representation of how a track layout should be, in terms of it's an old track, but it's still one that I found very interesting, very difficult, very skill based, and at the same time it's quite easy on the driver that's behind, in my opinion. With dirty air, with concepts such as dirty air introduced, I feel like this track just it just helps the second driver, the driver behind the car, the driver following another car. It just helps the driver following to get around and stay in the DRS of another car.
Yep, but as we are speaking, that Helium just manages to put a 151 on a medium tire. That's a
Jeez,
brilliantly quick lap.
yeah, I think we are definitely underestimating the pace of these drivers. I would say, I think it's a stretch to say 113, but looking at the pace, I think a 113 would be a big stretch. I think a 114 is something that's entirely possible on these soft tires, because if a medium tire can go up to 115.1, unless I'm wrong and Helium is just pushing out god mode laps, I think a 114 is definitely possible. But yeah,
Yep,
as we are
definitely. I
mm,
do think the pole might be today in 114 minutes. Let's see. As we go on with Black Sheep, who's at the purple sector 1. I mean, he's been a really good driver who's not been that active this season. but he has been a very strong driver in the past seasons, and he's been one of those drivers. Like he had a record once, like similar to what Verstappen has this season. Basically, whenever he finished, it was on.
Oh, and he
Even
spins
oh
and
my god!
crashes. I think he just ended up losing his rears at Aqua Minerale, a turn that, of course, is very, very delicate to those rear tires, and he just ended up losing his rears and just colliding into the wall on the right. I wonder whose fast lap he that turn. Well, of course, this. Well, I wonder whose fast lap that must have screwed up, because again, the yellow flags are out, and you have to stop or slow down your car for the yellow flags.
Yeah, well,
Is there
that's in real life, but over here, it's just as long as the
yeah,
car is not obstructing your lane, the drivers are not going to lift up. They're just going to go full send on it. And as you see, Moto is coming on the line. He's already into the 14th. We are in 114.6.
definitely yeah, 114.6. These guys are pushing the absolute limits and the absolute limits of my time predictions as well, because every single time someone hits pole,
Oh, no, no,
and as
no,
we
no, no.
see couple losing a wing, hopefully, and he's not lost his tires, so hopefully and I can see the pits are there as well, so he can easily go into the pits. He's not lost a lot of time in terms of going back around the track without a front wing. That was a very, very close shave for Kapil, and I think he'll probably want to see what went wrong. Maybe if it's something with, I don't know, a setup or something about his tire pressures, then hopefully he can fix it quickly in the pits and come out to put a fast lap. Because for now, Kapil looks to be in P7, not a good lap to be on your 6 lap old soft tires. If you end up starting on those tires, you'll have a hell of a lot of problems with, of course, your tire strategy.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Kapil is right now, as we see, he's just riding out the track, just laying down some rubber, getting the feel of it, and just trying to go for one final run. That's what I think he's planning to do. But I would say that was a very close shave. Like, it almost ended up like similar to Black Sheep, where his wheel could have easily fallen off, but somehow he just managed to survive that. And it was really unfortunate with the Black Sheep as well. It looked like a very clean lap until then, but like I said, the Aqua Minerale is a very, very tricky traction zone. It's an uphill right-hander that also is, the camber also makes it very, very tough on the traction. So really unfortunate for him, but yeah, we'll be very interested to see how he can climb up in the race.
And as
Tanish has gone to the pole.
Yeah, and as we were just seeing, Tanish was just winding up a pretty quick lap with a 114.5 and just hit pole there. Provisional pole for the time being, but quite a margin to Moto. Again, not that far of a gap between both of them. I think it's between, I guess, I believe that that's hundredths of a second, right? A few hundredths between them. So again, four hundredths of a second between them. So it isn't a big margin for now, but again, Moto has to again try to go for that perfect lap and try to increase, those sector times if there's something left within those sector times, because sometimes a setup just ends up limiting your sector times as well. I hope that's not the case for these drivers here. I hope they can keep pushing for a 114 or even a 113. I think at this point 113 is not, well, is not out of the question here.
Yeah, right. I mean, right now the track evaluation is still not done yet. It's just we still have 4 minutes into the session, so it's still not peak track evaluation. Like whoever crosses the line at the very last moment will have the perfect track to themselves, and they could really be having a good chance to, like go to the max of their potential times.
And that is the lap invalidated for the Alpine for corner cutting.
Well, he's
um
just taking some freedom on his outlap, just trying to
mhm.
get through it as quick as he could. And I think he's just starting his lap right now.
True. And again, this is Baba, who of course was our first provisional pole sitter in the day. I think he's looking to increase that or reduce that gap between. Oh, and he gets a massive amount of oversteer out of that corner. He just loses all of the balance out of that. I wonder if he's gonna. He has to eject from that fast lap, right? There's no hope of that lap being any faster than his previous one. At least in my opinion.
Yeah,
And well,
it's a no-brainer. He just has to abort and just turn off ERS, gather some battery, and go run for another shot at it.
definitely. And why are we seeing sector 2, right? Yellow flags at sector 2. What's happening there?
I think it's
Um,
just some drivers just going slow, or maybe just someone just cutting across track just to
mhm.
get the shortest line across.
Yeah, because those sector 2, at sector 2, of course, the walls are pretty, and yeah, of course, the Red Bull slows down. These walls are pretty close, and one mistake, and you're gonna hit the wall pretty badly, probably retire from the race as well, which is something you don't want. Sorry, retire from quali, which is something you don't want to do at the start of any Grand Prix session.
We
But
are
yeah,
on
while
board
we're
Q
talking,
B, and seems to have been not that good of a lap. So, I mean, I think this is going to be his first proper hot lap, I think. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how well he winds up this lap. So far, it looks to be a clean kind of lap, like not a very quick, not a very fastest lap, that kind of a thing. But it seems to be doing some personal best sectors across. I think he'll be somewhere sitting in the midfield. Let's see.
mhm. And you're right about that. I think he's just trying to get the utmost, most comfortable feel out of this corner space. Because again, if you push too much too early, you might as well just lose control of the car. And you don't want to do that. You want to push enough in your own comfort zone. And again, once you have enough idea of how the track will react to your push, or to your car, you can easily go for that pole position. But yeah, as he goes fast enough for P8, I still think there's something left for Q, but B. But I wonder if he's gonna get another lap out of it. I don't think so. There's just not enough time left for B to Q, but B to get another lap, and I think that's it for him. It's his position. But here comes Aradhya, his last chance to get pole. He gets a good exit out of that corner. He gets enough of that curve here, but can he push for pole? He gets P3 out of it. Just 2/10 or 3/10 away from pole. Again, um,
Harry
yeah, I
crosses
think
the
that.
line and he doesn't improve. He's still in P6. So Banath comes across the line. He goes up to P4 with a 115 flat. And
Oh, and Harry goes off.
can he go on board
The,
Akash? I think he's rounding up this hot lap right now.
yeah, and again,
And
Akash staying where he can. Can we search for anyone who's on purple times right now? Anyone who's actually
can
going
he
for
go on
pole
board
at the moment?
Tanish?
Oh, and Akash again going off track.
Okay, Tanish has invalidated his lap. So this is
Validated his
done.
lap as well.
Moto has got the checkered flag. So I guess quali is done.
Can we look at couple for a second? Kapil also went finished his lap, right? Yeah, Kapil finished his lap. So Quali's done. I guess the provisional for Sir Tanish was enough to get. Oh, and
Oh,
as we
wait.
sing it, Helium takes the fastest lap and pole position away from Sir Tanish with a 114.382. An amazing fast lap. Hope wish we could have seen it, but again, I think we'll see more of Helium later in the race, and we'll see how his skill or how his race approach works out later in the day. But
Yeah,
again,
that was a really quick lap from Helium, and I just didn't see that coming in the timing board. Like I just saw that everyone having like that one lap kind of softs, and I thought it was over. But I think Helium just went on for a second push lap, and I think he got the pole push on that lap because if you could see his tire age is 2 laps, which means that it is the second push lap. So that could have some implications in the race with a slightly older tire, but it's all to play for still. So.
yes, I think you're correct with that. But what's more interesting is no one started on the mediums. I don't think anyone over here currently trusts the medium tire to help them out, at least in terms of the race strategy. I think most of them just prefer their qualifying position to to the alternate strategy right now.
Yep, that's true. I mean, the problem with alternate strategy is, as you know, like you got to be extremely careful on the first few laps in the opening lap, because if you have some damage, it's definitely going to be a big wrench in your strategy. So it makes
True.
sense.
And I think maybe half of the or more all of them are expecting a safety car sometime soon because again, um, it's mostly in the first few laps where you see a safety car because the drivers are close enough and the gaps haven't been formed. Some drivers are just eager to go on move. Sometimes you just get a bit too throttle happy and you just end up hitting it into the wall. I mean, we saw a lot of chaos in the Tier X race. So I won't hold it against these guys, or I won't hold it against these guys' judgment that there might be a safety car later in this race, which could have again affect strategy.
Yep, that is true. Safety cars always spice up the strategy game, so it could throw some tough decisions out, and there's gonna be a lot happening. So let's see. Let's have a look what's gonna happen. So as we wait for the drivers to load up their setups, make sure everything is running proper, and we'll be
Yeah, and
going in pretty soon. So, what are your expectations for this race, man?
I mean, looking at the sky right now, I think it's cloudy, so it looks a bit like an overcast session, right? So I think the tires maybe won't be degrading as much as I think they should with a very hot track. So I think maybe we'll see, like, of course, us again. A pretty easy one stop for these guys. A soft to medium strategy should take them till the end. With regards to race, I think, of course, this track infamously has only one DRS zone, which is more than enough, in my opinion. It gets the job done. It's a pretty good DRS zone coming up to the Tamburello chicane, and yeah, I've seen a lot of action here. A lot of technical skill is also involved in some of these moves. So yeah, I'm pretty excited to see how these tier 1 boys are gonna react today to this specific track. What about you, Deepak?
Yeah, like you said, this track, it's, I mean, in real life, it's not something that is known to be easy to pass, but of course, in the game, it's kind of different. You do have a lot of skill over here and a lot of differences in how the things work. So we can see some daring passes, but like you said, the DRS zone, even though there is only one, it's very effective, and we can see some interesting moves down into Tamburello chicane. We could see some moves from the outside, on the inside. Like there's an endless amount of possibilities into that corner. So it's always very exciting race over here.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, we only have 15 seconds before the formation lap starts. But yes, right now we of course have Helium on pole, followed by, I believe, Tanish and Kapil. These three will be looking at hunting down, of course, Helium, who has the position that everyone wants at this point. Starting on pole is always beneficial. And wow, looking at that, it just looks like it might rain. Is it though?
Uh,
I think it's just grayed out for some reason.
well,
I
actually, right now the telemetry, if it's coming up, qualifying session is the race session. So I think we might be in
Yeah,
for
I
some
know.
rain.
Is it it said qualifying, it showed clouds around qualifying, right? So I don't know, it just seemed a bit confusing, but yeah, it's a bit more darker than I expected. Um yeah, if rain ends up popping up here, then I'll be very interested. Again, right now, I think they're heading towards with turn turn 7 turn 6 turn 7, right? And this is one of those key spots where we'll have to keep an eye on, because I've seen a lot of drivers end up spinning at these corners,
Yep.
around these corners. They end up losing traction at that chicane, or sometimes they end up braking a bit too late and going onto the gravel. And I think these are some of those times where you'll see a lot of mistakes by some drivers, and sometimes maybe some moves, because I think in the TRX race, I had one chance of going for a move on Aerodave at that turn 7 chicane. Of course, I went around the outside the long way around, and yeah, luckily was able to pull off that move. So it is a difficult move, but it's an interesting move nonetheless. Of course, I think in the end, most of our overtakes will be, of course, at turns, I believe, 2, which is, of
Yep.
course, the Tamburello chicane. An easy pass there if you are able to maintain that gap before you get DRS. So yeah, now we see Helium in that Aston Martin just leading our drivers up to their grid slots. I think everyone is fairly or reasonably closer to each other. No one's left behind in the pack. Everyone's staying close. No issues with disqualifications or any contact with any drivers during the formation lap. It's very clean at the moment, and that's something that's great to see.
Yeah, it is
Yeah, and
always really nice to see a very clean formation lap. I mean, it's not that great of a sight to see some cars getting TSQ and sitting in the pit box with cold tires. It's obviously very bad for the cars around them as well, because having a slower car in the start is not that of a good safety thing to be going there. And as you see, Black Sheep is lining up
yeah,
to the grid, and he has taken the medium tires. So uh, yeah,
correct.
looks like an interesting call.
So the grid is set, the tires are ready, the drivers are ready. It's lights out and away we go. And of course, Helium gets an amazing start, but I feel like Tanish just didn't get enough of a start out of that corner. Moto gets a pass on Tanish easily on the inside. And as at the same time, we see Bennett trying to go for a move on the McLaren. Bennett loses a lot of time on the chicane. He just ended up bouncing over those curbs and just losing some positions there. I think he ended up losing two positions, as well as Tanish lost 3 positions right there. He's fallen back behind Aradhya at the moment. We have a yellow flag at sector 1, sector 2. Black Sheep has, looks like he lost a wing. I'm not sure at the moment, but I think most likely he must have spun. Hopefully he didn't lose a wing. If he did, then that's gonna be a lonely few laps for Black Sheep for the time being until there's a safety car. We see Harry Rocks just trying to find a way to get ahead of Stanish at the moment. He's quite close to him at the moment, and I wonder if he's just going to try. And he gets a very bad exit out of that corner, loses all the momentum he's gained in the past few corners. Tanish seems to be quite far ahead of Harry at the moment, but Bennett seems to be chasing down Harry right now. Of course, DRS won't be activated until this lap ends, and of course, even after this lap ends, DRS won't be available to these guys within that lap, because of course we only have one DRS zone, and once they come around towards the last turn, they'll get DRS out on. So we'll mostly see some overtakes by the start of lap, or by the end of lap 3, in all honesty. But that doesn't mean we won't see any normal overtakes. Of course, we've seen some people lose positions out of the strange starts. Right now, Helium, of course, has a relative lead, but again, he needs to be pushing that car even more at this crucial stage where DRS is inactive. And as we're speaking, Aradhya overtakes Kapil at the moment, um, and it looks like Aradhya is maybe losing some time to Moto. Again, these cars will be under some dirty air effect coming out of that corner, but I think it's important for Aradhya this lap. This is the lap where he has to push, because if in case, of course, when Moto gets DRS and if Aradhya doesn't have DRS, what he'll be involuntarily doing is creating a DRS train right behind him. He'll be stopping a lot of drivers, creating a big gap between the leaders and the guys behind. And yeah, predicted conditions. It looks like in 5 minutes we'll be getting rain. That's amazing. Amazing weather forecast, and if that happens, we'll be seeing at a very interesting rate. That's why people are currently on the soft tires, because they must have seen predicted
It's
rain
already
on
raining,
their
guys.
start group.
I can see a few droplets already.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's still 1 or 2 more laps. Oh, you can see Tanish just fighting his car out of Aqua Minerale. You can see how these cars are swerving right now. They're just losing a lot of traction out of their corners. I think it's time. I think it's partially. I think we might be seeing people try to jump into the pits within this lap or the next lap. I think it's time to go and change your tires again, it also depends on how how cold these soft tires get. Once they start, it looks like the Alpine of Black Sheep is coming out for Inters. Of course, we'll now have a very good idea of whether it's time to be on Inters, because now we'll be able to compare Black Sheep's times to Helium's times and try to find out the marginal difference between both their sector times. But I still think, and as we see, Moto just goes off. He loses traction coming out of the corner, and ends up just burying it in the wall. That must be a safety car right now. If there's a safety car, I'm pretty sure everyone's gonna come into the pits for those intermediate tires. A virtual safety car is out. Not as effective as a safety car in terms of getting everyone to punch up, but again, it neutralizes. It is a safety car, so excuse me, we have a full safety car right now, and Tanish just losing a lot of traction at this point, coming out of these corners. I think he's just ready to put on those intermediates right now. I think it's easily time for everyone to go onto those intermediates. Anyone who's staying out on these softs will be abandoning the race to fate at this point. Looking at these drivers, I think looking at the gaps, I think Kapil and Harry might be the only people that might have an issue with double stacking. The rest of them seem clear for the time being, and yeah, the rest of the gaps are pretty easy for everyone else. I see Black Sheep now might retain a lot of positions because of that. But I wonder if he's been lapped or not. I think he's been lapped, right? Deepak, could you clarify that? Do you think?
Yes,
Black Sheep,
sorry to cut you off haphazard. It'll just be me and me and you for comms right now, because Deepak's power is out. So yeah, all right. What was your earlier question?
I think Black Sheep was probably lapped by the leaders, I guess, because the safety car allowed him to unlap himself. So that's pretty good news for Black Sheep. I think he's avoided a big issue, because if he probably if let's say Helium exited the pits and Black Sheep was just behind Helium, it would have completely destroyed his race, because he would have been unable to unlap himself. He would be behind the leader and behind the safety car, which would have caused a lot of issues. But luckily for him, the leaders are now right behind safety car. It's still going to take him some time, and you don't want to push these tires too much in these uncertain conditions. So he's going to take his time to catch up to the safety car. While the safety car is out right now, I'll just take a minute's worth of break to get my water refilled. It's up to you, Dan, now.
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead and recharge your throat. Yeah. So yeah, that's definitely given Black Sheep another life in this race. Like you said, if he had been 2 laps down, like you said, it wouldn't have helped his cause, because he'd still be sort of a lap down when he rejoins the refs back in the back. So yeah. Oh, and I think there was Kapil making contact with the safety car, and Helium has been disqualified from the session. What has happened? Oh no!
Oh my God.
Helium has been disqualified. He overtook that safety car briefly, and I completely missed that. And oh no! Can you take a look at Kapil's wing and just check if he's got any damage? Like visually, it looks like he's okay.
It looks like it's fine, but even a tiny bit of damage will cause a lot of understeer, and understeer on this track will not be good. The sign that Kapil hasn't returned to the pits might suggest that he can't see any damage on his side of you, so that is partially good news. But yeah, Helium getting disqualified by just passing the safety car, that seems a bit too harsh. But again, it's just, I wonder why Helium decided to overtake the safety car there.
I think he probably just gunned the throttle at just before the Rivazza corner, Rivazza 1. and did not expect the safety car to brake so early, because it's wet, one, and two, the safety car obviously is not as fast as our F1 cars here. So yeah, probably he got caught off guard for a second. And
Is this the Aston Martin safety car? Or is this the Mercedes
it's
safety car?
it's a
Because then
Mercedes.
people might just start that conversation again. Oh, these Aston Martin safety cars too slow. Yeah, but again, it's a Mercedes safety car. But again, these are wet tires. Unfortunately for Helium, it's a mistake that he'll remember forever, and I don't think he'll ever repeat it. Because this has cost him probably his best chance for a win. He qualified up on pole, but now he's just lost it all by a simple mistake on his end. But let's move forward. Couple has track position, but again, Couple has a penalty as well. How much of a penalty? How much does he have? I guess
I
at this
think
point he
it's
must
just
have
3 seconds. Yeah, and that's Black Sheep picking up another careless penalty by going off track while still under safety car conditions. Yeah, sorry.
Exactly, these
Oh,
two-
that's Couple. Couple had a. What is going on here?
Couple just lost.
Couple,
his wing,
Akash. Okay, I think that's a lobby restart. Everybody's just bending the cars on purpose. Yeah, it's a lobby restart. Because I had a
Okay,
feeling then itself, because our lobby host Moto had left the session after he DNF'd, and that usually is the beginning of a lot of desyncs and all sorts of problems. Probably why Helium had that disqualification, like that moment with the safety car. But yes, it looks like
That's
it's
great
definitely.
news for all these drivers because, yeah, for a second I thought, my God, this is more chaotic than Tier-X.
Well, it looks like we'll be
Well,
having a
again,
race
this is a
restart now.
small delay in race schedule, but again, we are here to deal with the bugs of Codemasters, unfortunately. And yeah, of course, first we'll have to race here. While we're sitting here, I think the only possible solution for now is, of course, to talk about today's race. I guess that's the only way to buy time. So again, yeah, in my opinion, a pretty interesting race. I think I can compare this to like France 2021, where I just never had any expectations from the race today, and it ended up being a good race.
Yeah, it was. I completely agree with you on that. It was a spicy race that was going on right until that. Helium. That moment that Helium got disqualified, and I had a feeling that race restart was due, and just like I predicted, it happened.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll be seeing all of our pole sitters in their natural position at the start of the race. I wonder if you're going to see the same track conditions. I think we should, right? I think they'll probably set it
Yeah,
customly,
yeah.
because it'd be shame to lose a wet race, or more correctly, weather changing, or climate changing race. So I can't believe I just said climate changing those words. Okay, whatever. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah, not the
yeah.
first to.
So we'll,
Oh, okay. My game just had a crash, which means there will be a slight delay in me joining the game. So, yeah, sorry
sure.
to cut you off there. I was just saying that you're not the first person to slip up. We had a moment from Harry yesterday, the man himself, who said something. So he pulled off a Will Buxton by saying he's got a lot of pace in the race, which is called race pace, and yeah, one of the highlights
Yeah,
of
that's
that race.
that's the total Will Buxton move. As soon as you said that, I knew it would be some dumb shit. I saved myself for cursing there, but yeah. The issue with Will Buxton is he was great in season 1 of Netflix Drive to Survive, but after that, you clearly saw that he had no idea what to say for the next few seasons, and he was just spewing this dumb shit, because I think in his head he must be thinking, I gave you an explanation in the first season of what happens, there's nothing left to explain. What am I supposed to do for the rest of these seasons? And yeah, again,
Yeah, I mean,
again,
Drive to Survive is just what's that phrase they call like it's just trying to smoke out of the fire. What do they say that? I don't know. Like he's just trying to create something out of thin air, like these rivalries
Yeah,
and
definitely.
stuff. Like so, at one point it just got cringe, and yeah, I just
I
stopped
think
watching it after season 2.
definitely. Even I just watch when I watch it now, I just go back to season one. I think that was probably the best season. Its best season. Everything was so natural. The focus was more on the midfield, which is very important because these drivers in the midfield never got any recognition for their massive efforts of points. When we race now, as a midfielder myself, I know how hard it is to get P5, P6, and P4 when the top drivers with that skill level up there with no chance of getting a podium, then your only satisfaction is getting points. And it's something that I guess people didn't think about it after, didn't think about it before 2018 and 2017. But yeah, again, it's just I think it's a show that's good for people who want to get interested in Formula One. It's a very good introductionary show, which gets the those entertainment pheromones sort of going, and it hits the right spot in terms of getting you the best storylines and the best action. But again, in terms of the fact that it's mostly scripted, it just pisses off every single F1 fan after you become an F1 fan.
Yes, indeed, especially the older F1 fans.
Oh.
Because well, for one, it's like over dramatizing the whole thing, and second off, it brings in on one part it's a good thing that it brings in a lot of new F1 fans, but then they also bring in a lot of wannabes, so that kind of pisses off the old the OG fans as well. Yeah.
How far back are you going, Dan? I mean, when you say OG, I mean, are you referring to Schumacher days or Hamilton,
I would
McLaren days? Which era?
I would say just the V8s, the late V8 eras, when
That.
where Vettel was still winning championships from
Mm.
that time itself.
Because my older brother is, of course, he was an F1 fan. Well, I wouldn't say a fan, but he was a watcher during the Schumacher Hakkinen days. And when he watched the race, this recently, he said, "Why are these guys getting so much space?" And I had to literally give him an introduction to what is clean racing in F1, because that was never a concept back in those days with Hakkinen and Schumacher. Most likely people used to push people off because there was no concept as DRS. You had to make overtaking as difficult as it's humanly possible for those drivers at that time.
Yeah,
But yeah, again,
we did see
sorry.
so many. We did see of the some of the legendary drivers from the likes of Schumacher as well as Senna trying to, take out their championship rivals. Like
Oh, true.
One of in Japan, like the Japan race in one of the 19 in one some race in the 1990s. And the brother
Yeah,
had
yeah, yeah. I
got
know.
disqualified.
Japan, it was between Senna and Prost. I think
Prost,
Prost
yeah,
was
it was
leading the
Prost.
championship. He ended up crashing with Senna. Senna, I think he took, he broke, or sorry, he basically used a runoff area to join back onto the track, and they disqualified Senna for it. So he ended up losing the championship that way. And then I guess immediately 1 year later, Senna ended up just completely destroying Prost in the last race. I think it was Japan again. He just ended up he didn't even turn at that point. I'm pretty sure Senna. And I think Schumacher followed in Senna's footsteps with Villeneuve, with Damon Hill, and all that. Those were some dark times for F1 championships, because you pay a lot of your, or you spend a lot of time following this championship, and if it ends like that, like imagine if it ended like that in 2021. I mean, the anger spewing out of every single F1 fan, it would have been a shit show. Oh shit.
It's fine. Obviously the fans nowadays, they are quick to jump to the gun. So I tend to resonate with you on that thought that so many fans, they're just outright dumb, and
Mhm.
people should really learn to, like, oh, well, I mean, some people would call me hypocrite because I too am judging things people harshly, but this is just a viewpoint that I have after watching so many races, and I think we're having another lobby restart. Yes, I'm sorry, guys. We will be delayed for a bit longer. Uh, yeah,
While we're delayed right now, Dan, how about we bring up the standings for IRC? So, we can start a bit of a discussion with the standings. We can sort of keep our guests or our viewers entertained for the time being with regards to understanding where every single driver is, what every single driver needs.
yep. Just give me a second.
Yeah, sure. Give it up.
I have to do some tinkering on OBS and stuff, so it will take a bit. uh, where is it? I think it should be this. Yeah. Oh damn! What is this?
Yeah, it is. It feels like something out of a mirror room or a mirror house or something. Yeah, but while you figure that out, I'll just keep our viewers entertained with some more fights from our past. I think when you think about Imola, I think F1 did a video regarding this. I think it was Alonso versus Schumacher 2005, if I'm not wrong. I think again, if I'm not wrong, that year was when they introduced new rules and regulations with regards to the tires and how they had to retain one single tire throughout the entire race, and if only fuel stopped only fuel only and you can only pit for fuel as far as I'm aware. So I think it was 2005 where they raced in Imola, and there was an amazing battle between Schumacher and Alonso. Of course, at that time we didn't have the concept of DRS, but again, we still had fast cars at the time which could overtake, and it always depended on high fuel load and low fuel load, which is something so interesting. And I think something, of course, we lost because of an important safety issue, but it was a big, in my opinion, it was a big quality that we ended up losing because pit stops and fuel, like strategy and fuel mixed with each other, added another element of control to some of these interesting strategic calls, and it made strategy even more interesting. Sometimes I think I remember it was 2006 or something. I believe it was 2005 or 2006 where almost all the time well, mostly people didn't overtake in on the track. They used to overtake in the pit stops because pit stops were heavily important. And even when people used to qualify, fuel mattered because when you finished quali, well, basically you started the race with the amount of fuel that you completed your quali with. So let's say if you've completed quali with 10 kilos worth of fuel, so you're going to start your race with 10 kilos worth of fuel. So sometimes people used to go for a very uh, um, low fueled low fuel mode just to get pole, and then ended up going for a pit stop pretty early in the race and getting high fuel, or fueling up the car to go till the end. So those things sort of made that aspect interesting. And I see we have someone here right now. Is that Yes, it is our second commentator, I believe. Itzel, are you here to commentate?
It's my man. Welcome back. I think he's here. Well, we'll
I
just.
was on push to talk. I was on push to talk. My bad.
Okay.
Hello. I'm a bit late, I guess.
No, you're just in time because we're about to restart the lobby, so you can commentate with us.
Oh, great. Fantastic.
Yes. I think the lobby restarted just for you. We restarted the entire lobby because you weren't here. You're an integral part of
That's
Tier-1 commentary.
that's too kind. That's too kind. But I'm not I'm not center of the show.
Yeah.
There was a lobby restart, which means there must have been some saucy stuff going on in the first race. I guess I wasn't watching. Unfortunately, I was a little occupied. But maybe we can have a quick rundown potentially. I guess there
Well,
was a
it's
retirement. I saw Moto retired. After that, I joined. So
I think as far as I understand, Dan mentioned desync, which could be a big issue that probably restarted the race. But before Moto retired, Helium ended up overtaking the safety car, which got him disqualified. Kapil ended up destroying his front wing. Moto ended up retiring, and Akash went into the wall again and DNF. So that was our scenario, and we were in a lot of confusion at the time because we didn't understand this. Lobby was restarting. We just saw people just dropping down like flies.
yeah. Also noticed that it was mixed. It was changing conditions. So we had dry at the beginning, and
Yeah,
then went to winters, I believe. So
yeah,
I'm curious to see if we will see that kind of weather again in the server restart. But
yeah. I hope so.
yeah, I'm hoping as well. Mixed conditions will make strategy an absolute nightmare. Depends on how many times the weather changes. We've seen in real life that it goes from dry to wet to dry to wet. It's crazy, and everybody's on different strategies. There's guys on slicks, guys on inters. So it's going to be. I'm very curious to see how they set up the server. If they do set it up to be exactly how it was before, then we'll see the inters come out again. But I don't know. Something tells me that we may not. I think they'll just leave it up to the game to decide what weather to have it.
I wonder if they keep it set up as the same conditions. I wonder if anyone's gonna decide to go. Well, can they decide to start on the inters? I don't think that's possible, right? Because if they
Um,
start on inters, even if they lose like 2 seconds a lap, and because the rain started at lap 3 and 4, so we didn't have a lot of dry laps. So I wonder if they can start on inters and then keep that reduce that pit stop.
knowing the fact that, yeah, I mean, if they are going to be recreating the same weather again, then knowing what weather conditions are going to come up is going to be massively beneficial for anyone trying to construct a strategy. So yeah, I think going to the inters would make sense right from lap one, even if you lose a little bit of time at the beginning. But yeah, Dan has just brought up the drivers' championship standings. So we see Moto at the top, and then we have Couple in P2, and it goes down from there. Helium in P3, ST in P4, Aradhya P5, NVP 6. Banat in his first season in Tier 1 is in P7. Akash Sonawane, after a brilliant podium at Brazil, finds himself in P8. Wilshire P9, Oxygen P10, and then we have a couple of the other drivers as well outside the top 10. But yeah, Moto has the most to lose coming into this race. He has got a healthy lead, but if anything, if it goes like the first, how it went just before the restart, then Moto will be not picking up any points today. So it's going to be a godsend for him. I did hear that he may play it fair and not take part in the restart, considering he retired from the first race. But I think in this, for the sake of sportsmanship, I think we need to have him back. I think it's only fair that if
Yeah.
everyone else is allowed to restart, then he should be as well.
Definitely. I think one of the key things to bring up from Collie is that Helium was the one who put it on poll today. Of course, everyone went on the soft tires. I think he put it up a 114.3. It was a pretty quick lap from Helium, and I think looking at the championship order, if he can keep that position, if he can keep P1, then we're probably looking at him probably jumping Kapil in the championship standings and getting P2 from by the end of this race.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting dynamic going into the last couple of rounds of the season. We have Bahrain coming up next weekend, and then USA Circuit of the Americas after that. So 2 rounds left in the season, and it really is all to play for. I mean, if we were to continue the race as it went before the server restart, then we would have probably seen Helium or Couple. I think Helium DSQ'd because of some issue or the other. But assuming the desync did not happen and the race went on as scheduled, you would have seen either Helium or Kapil pick up the 25 points and close that gap up to Moto, because Moto is currently 30 points clear. He wouldn't have conceded the P1 in the driver standings, but he definitely would have lost a large chunk of that lead. So, if anything, if he is going to be participating in this restart, his aim is going to be to put that incident in the first race out of his mind and just focus on getting a good result today, because he's in a strong position. P2 on the grid, he's in a strong position to start, and if he gets a good start, he might even take P1 even before turn one. So as you say, there's
True.
a lot to play for in this race and also over the course of the season. So this race at Imola is going to be vital. We will have another formation lap And as the weather forecast pops
And
up
yep,
here,
it's gonna rain, I guess. It's the same forecast as before. It is gonna
rain
rain.
in 15 minutes does mean that most of the drivers will start on the slicks, and that does seem to be the case. Top 9 drivers starting on slicks, Black Sheep and Violent Gandhi outside the top 10 will be starting on the medium tires. So they'll probably be able to take
I
it
wonder.
maybe. Yeah, go on.
I'm sorry, but I wonder what the plan is with going on the mediums. 15 minutes, yes, but even last time when we saw the forecast, it said 15 minutes, and it started raining within 10 laps or so. I understand that if the rain comes back a bit late, it might cause an issue. But I don't think these softs won't have an issue going 15 laps, especially with these cooler conditions. I think these soft tires will survive. And again, these aren't qualifying soft tires; they're fresh softs. So I wonder what Black Sheep and Gandhi were thinking about in terms of their race strategy.
I think the rule for if there is a server restart is the drivers do still have to select the tires which they use during qualifying. So not sure if Black Sheep chose to qualify or not, but if he did qualify on the mediums, then he has to stay on the mediums as per the rules. Violent Gandhi obviously has free choice, but I'm more confused by the fact that Violent Gandhi is not choosing to go on a set of softs. He is also staying on the mediums. I think both those
Mhm.
drivers probably look to they're probably expecting that rain to probably come a little later than what the game has predicted. 15 minutes could very easily become 20, and if it becomes 20 minutes, that's going to be a little bit longer on the soft tires. I think soft tires go around 12, 15 laps here, as you said, but towards the end, those softs will be dying. And if they're going to be facing pressure from Black Sheep and Violent Gandhi behind, and they're going to be pitting to the inters anyway, then it's going to be crucial to have that advantage at the end of the soft stint where they have a little extra pace to make up some positions maybe. Once it starts raining, the mediums are going to be tragic. They're going to drop off really quickly. The softs have a slight chance of being competitive in light rain, but as the rain starts picking up, that those mediums are going to be terrible. So they're going to have to make the most of those first 15 minutes. It's going to be all
Okay.
about trying to make up positions, and I guess I will let you take it away on the race start.
Definitely. Okay, so the grid is set. The tires are hot. The drivers are ready, and now we wait for the 5 lights to start this Grand Prix. It's lights out, and away we go. Helium gets a good start, and so does Tanish, comparatively to his last start. Again, I think Banat, Harry looks against the position, Aradhya against the position, a couple, but again they're fighting side by side. I think Kapil gets a better exit out of the corner, and he's retained P3. But the McLaren of Farad is still fighting against Kapil at the moment. He's trying to find any gap, and I think he is gonna find a gap right around here into turn 7. It looks like the side by side, and it looks like Kapil still has that position in his hands. I think Radhya will now try to calm down a bit, because in these next section or the sequence of corners, it's not easy to go for a move here, and one mistake at Aqua Mineral can send your car spinning, and Tanish just ends up losing his rears. He slips up a bit and has to use the runoff area to take that corner, or has to use the runoff area to rejoin the track. Fortunately, he didn't lose a position, but he did lose a lot of time to Helium at the moment. Helium seems to be running properly at the moment. He is losing too many positions right now. He's keeping up his pace, and right now successfully has increased the gap to Tanish by a second. But now again, as soon as we see Helium exit out of the Tamburello chicane, we'll see that gap increase too, and we see Harry Rocks just go off track just for a second. I don't think there was enough space, and he braked a bit too late. I think he outbraked himself there. And now he's all over the place, and Akash Sinavane is trying to go for a move here. He's trying to hunt for any slip up from Harry Rooks right now. If Harry Rooks slips up, or if he makes a slight mistake, Sonoman is gonna try to go for a move here.
You can just go on board Kapil. I think he's absolutely breathing down Banat's neck here, not giving the Haas driver any kind of space right now. And speaking of Haas, unfortunately, Moto has not started the has not started the race. He's not taken part in the restart, so that is unfortunate. So he will have to watch on from the sidelines after his retirement in race 1 before the restart. He will have to watch quite painfully as the other drivers take away the points that he could have potentially scalped here today. But Helium currently leading the way for the rest of the grid, and it seems pretty close right now. Apart from a slight gap between Banat and Aradhya Gupta, all the field packed within a second of each other, which means when DRS is enabled right on cue, that everyone will be within DRS activation. So a little bit of DRS training will happen here, and it's going to have to take a mistake from one of these drivers to break that chain and for us to get some overtaking. But as we saw on lap 2, Harry and Baba getting very, very comfortable with each other going through Tamburello. That section is very tight, and it's not easy to judge your braking there, especially when you're side by side with another driver. You will see a lot of guys going very deep, but great racing so far. Unfortunate for Tanish at the beginning with there was a slight spin of some sort, but yeah, good racing so far.
Yeah, and luckily I don't know, I think while heading towards the final few corners, I think Tanish was able to break that 1 second gap. So I wonder if he decides to break a bit late, can he get into the DRS protection zone of Helium?
As fun coming through Aqua Minerale, that section is quite notorious on this game for these not completely unsettling the car. It unloads the rear end, and if you're not perfectly accurate on throttle, then you can lose the rear end. That's what's happened to Harry here. He'll have hot tires for at least 2 sectors, so he'll have to make sure to not compound those spins one after the other and lose those tires very early on. But we see Couple on the attack, prowling for that P4, and he gets it done pretty easily, well before turn 1. And Banat now has to claw back that position, keep within DRS, and not try to lose another position to Baba behind him, who's also within a second and on the chase. Kuberabi on his return has also done valiantly well to move himself up into P7, the current Tier 1 champion, doing a very good job of benefiting from others' misery and moving himself up into P7. Akash Sonavane, who was part of that group just now, has dropped back a little bit. He was briefly up into P6, P7, but he's had some kind of an incident. And Violent Gandhi has retired from the session coming out of Dosa.
That's a pretty wild spot to crash at. I wonder what happened wrong there. Maybe coming out of turn 7, he must have lost traction. His rears must have spun him out or something. But again, quite weird.
I think it might be just a case of he ran a little wide on the curb on exit, and then while coming back onto the track, there's a difference of speed.
Yeah.
So the rear wheels just spin up, and if you don't catch it in time,
Definitely.
then you lose the car. And in these cars on this game, when you lose the rear, you're just a passenger. So unfortunate for Violent Gandhi, and we were very curious to see how his strategy would play out, but we won't get that opportunity. But Black Sheep still is there in P8 on the medium, so we get to see someone on the medium runners. As there is a safety car, okay.
Yeah, there is a safety car. I just noticed that. So I wonder if if we start seeing rain droplets in the next 2 laps or within the safety car, I think people are just going to go dive into the pits, because as we saw in our first race, as soon as the droplets started dropping, people just kept losing their traction. It was just too difficult to maintain their car even on the soft tires, even with the small bit of rain. I think this track is quite difficult to run on the wets. Any mistake and you'll definitely end up in the walls.
Absolutely. Imola is one of those tracks where traction is very important. So even in dry conditions, getting the traction right here, especially with a setup that isn't perfectly optimized, is quite a challenge. I can speak firsthand from this yesterday, and I'm sure Dan will probably laugh at my misery from yesterday as well. I spun many times at Imola yesterday in the Tier 2 race, but yeah, I mean, I'm not quite anywhere near as skilled as these Tier 1 boys, so it should be less of a challenge for them to modulate the throttle and make sure to keep their car on the tarmac. But yeah, the traction is definitely a challenge here, and the wet definitely compounds that effect. So drivers will be squirrely definitely in those opening few laps in the intermediates to get into that working window. It's going to be quite cold, quite wet, and it's typical British weather here in Imola. Not quite the Italian summer that we are expecting, but it's going to be very interesting after the safety car or during the safety car. It's going to be curious to see how Helium handles this. He's definitely the leader. If he dives into the pits, a lot of drivers dummying into the pit lane entry there, hoping to get a reaction from someone behind them, but everybody is just keeping calm for now, as suddenly it becomes very sunny in the server. It just suddenly got bright, so not quite sure what kind of games this weather system is playing with us.
Yeah, I wonder if someone's gonna crash into the pit lane if they try to dummy again. That wall is pretty attractive. It's like a magnetic effect. We might go into it, but again, it's just saying 5 more minutes and it's gonna start raining. Mm, yeah, that's a little confusing. It's gonna be a bit of a
The drivers with selecting tires. I think what would you do in this situation? Would you be risking it, staying out on the softs for a little bit longer, have that advantage for 2 or 3 laps, or do you lose the advantage by pitting to the inters now, but then you'll be much faster in the latter half?
no. I won't risk it, especially if I'm on the top three. I don't need to risk it because again, I know I have the pace. If I'm on the top three, I know I have the pace to get rid of or to easily pass the people behind me. Again, going on to the intermediates a bit too quickly will just overheat my inters, and if it's not the right time, it'll just overheat my inters. I'll be slower than the guys ahead, and I'll lose a lot of time. I'll maybe lose a lot of positions comparatively when it starts to rain. It's a very tricky call and it all just depends on how everyone reacts right now. I think Helium, Stanish, and Aradhya will be looking at pitting 1 lap later than probably the first one to dive into the pits. I think they'll be hoping to see how fast the first car who gets the intermediate tires on how fast they're going in comparison to their times, and then they'll decide, okay, if it's time to go into the pits or not, or they might be looking at the tire temperatures, which is a very good indicator of whether you're
Gone.
supposed to no. And yeah,
Helium's gone
Helium
for a safety car restart.
again, Helium. Oh, and Harry Rocks just ends up spinning at the wrong place at the wrong time and ends up losing a lot of positions because of that. Helium again got a very good start, but Danish is still trying to keep him in the DRS, trying to maintain that gap. He's currently 5 tenths behind and losing at least 1 tenth per corner. I hope he can find some more grip around these corners and come back at Helium. But for now, it looks like Helium is the fastest driver out there. In terms of any track positions, I don't think anyone was able to get a pretty good start out of that safety car restart. I think everyone is relatively able to maintain their position, and again, Baba just gets a bit too swervy around Aquamiralia. Again, that chicane on the right. If you put your tires a bit, and is that a warning time penalty for again Baba as well?
Baba, yeah, for cutting the chicane. That was the final track limit warning, so he does pick up 3 seconds.
Yeah, the penalties will be something that's going to have a effect later on in the race because again, it's very easy to. And as we're speaking, Kapil is ready to go for a move right now. He's picking the outside line, quite an interesting line considering he doesn't even have DRS. Kapil pushes his way into. Well, I wouldn't say pushes, but he fights it off. He gets his elbows out and retains that position. Amazing move, and one without DRS. So not an easy move, but Kapil shows the quality at which he's operating and the skill at which he's operating. He's showing the pace right now,
I'm
and he's showing
seeing
that
rain.
Aradhya.
Guys, sorry to
Yeah.
cut you off again.
Yeah, again, our our weather forecast is is accurate at the moment as the raindrops have started. This is not good. This isn't good news for Black Sheep at the moment. He's the only driver out there on mediums. But again, this is good news for these soft runners because now, hopefully, in a lap or two, they can pit. I think in a lap they'll decide to pit off. I don't think anyone's going to jump into the pits right now. Maybe one or two, probably stuck in P10 or P8, P9. But I think Helium's probably going to go into the pits at the end of next lap. I think he's going to pull off a dummy here though, and he doesn't decide to pull off a dummy. I don't think he needs to pull off a dummy here. For Tanish, again, DRS enabled, but Tanish won't have the benefit of DRS right now. Of course, he'll get DRS by the end of this lap once he gets back around towards the start-finish straight. but he's getting extremely close to Helium at the moment. I wonder how much ERS he's currently using. Can we take a look at telemetry and check if 67%? And can we take a look at Helium's ERS? 64. So Danish is still able
Roughly
to.
the same. They're roughly matched on pace,
Yeah.
I believe. And Kubrabi is retired coming into sector 2. Oh, dearie me. That is
I wonder
not.
if he slipped because of the raindrops. I wonder if those raindrops are now causing issues with traction.
I mean, it's still in that period where the track is still kind of dry, kind of wet, depending upon which part of the track it is. And again, as I mentioned earlier, the softs have the ability to go a little bit in wet conditions because they are the softest tire compound, so they have some traction in wet conditions as well. So yeah, I mean, one
Yeah,
person who is getting is benefiting a lot from the safety car period is Harry, who unfortunately spun during the last safety car restart. But now he gets a chance to close up on that gap again, and something which he has as an advantage is he's already on the inters, so he might jump maybe one or two of these guys going into the pit lane. I doubt it,
I
but
I doubt
maybe.
it because he's just too far back. But again, the safety car is out, which is more important. That's why everyone's jumping into the pit lane right now because the safety car is out. I wonder if someone's gonna get stuck in. No, and there's not gonna be a double stack here, so no one's gonna get some time missed out because of a double stack. Every other teammate is probably pitted or is far away from a pit stop at the moment. So again, everyone's pitted. It's probably been an easy decision for all these drivers because the track is getting worse out there for these soft tires. It's not. There's uh, no logical assumption, or, no logical strategy of staying out on the softs for any more laps. And yeah, Helium retains his P1. Tanish is in P2, and Aradhya is in P3. I wonder what Kapil is hoping to do in these next few laps because if I'm not wrong, wasn't Kapil didn't Kapil
Yes.
already overtake
You're
Aradhya?
right. You're right. Couple got jumped in the pit lane, it seemed. Or, yeah, it did seem like Couple got jumped in the pit lane. That is
Hmm.
interesting. And I don't think he lost the position beforehand. So somehow Aradhya has managed to jump Couple during the pit window. And also, the safety car has effectively wiped out any kind of strategic overlap between any of these drivers because they're all on fresh enters and they're all on the same lap and they're all within a second of each other again because of the safety car restart. So yeah, pretty much any kind of strategic masterclass that we were planning on seeing from any driver has been wiped out as Baba gets awfully close to the back of Akash Sonawane. Needs to be careful in these wet conditions. Could very easily lose a front wing. And on top of that, just to compound their misery, they would also get a 5-second penalty for a dangerous collision. So keep your distance there, boys. No, don't quite get too close to the guys up ahead. Yeah, a nice little reset for Harry as well. He can now get in the groove once again and try to go at the guys ahead, having spun on the safety car restart before. That would not have been ideal for him. I couldn't help but feel sorry for him during the last safety car restart. But yeah, Violent Gandhi's Kubarabi's retirement will bring him back into the melee as everyone else is now bunched up again behind the safety car, and it'll give everyone a chance to reset and more importantly to assess the conditions because obviously traction is going to be different now.
True. It's just gonna give them a good feeling of how much more they can push out right now. Again, the safety car is of course not gonna go full throttle. That's not what we are saying. But again, the track is quite new at the moment because of this new because of the raindrops, because of wet conditions. So they want to understand how far they can push these intermediate tires. Of course, the setup. I wonder if they have a dry setup or a wet setup right now. If I'm looking at the setup right now, it's probably a dry setup. So again, that might have a small effect on their traction level as well coming into these next few laps. One, I guess, key point right now is who's gonna keep it outside the wall, because if let's say someone ends up winning it in the next few laps, we'll again get another safety car that could again bring another strategic advantage to some drivers, maybe reduce it depending on how long this race is going to stay with us. If this is just going to be a rainy, if it's going to be the same intermediate conditions for the rest of the race, then it's not going to be quite as interesting as we're hoping. I wonder if the DRS is going to the DRS must be turned off right now, right? The stewards
Yeah, once
must have,
conditions
or
go
race
to
control
inters,
must have
the
DRS.
yeah, DRS has been disabled when the inters go on. That's pretty much when the race control decides that DRS is no longer effective. But yeah, about what you mentioned earlier in terms of a dry or a wet setup, I think drivers definitely would have put on a wet setup. They would have at least modified their dry setup, maybe increase the ride height, maybe increase the rear wing a little bit, front wing as well. Because Imola is definitely not a place where you get to flex the top speed of the car too much. It's a mainly high downforce kind of track, but anyway, they will be cranking on
Mhm.
the rear wing and front wing anyway. As we do get the restart underway, Tanish getting a little bit squirrely off the final corner. As we come onto the main straight, Helium getting a slightly better restart this time around. He's about couple 7/10 clear now. And yeah, that's been a good restart for Helium. Managed to get a little bit of space between himself and Tanish, which will give him a little bit of breathing room. But that deficit has come down. It's now fluctuating between 7 and 8 tenths as Aradhya gets very, very sideways and Couple all over the back of the McLaren driver as they go into the Wiener chicane. Ooh, Couple locking up and
Oh,
he's
couple
on
goes
the
up.
gravel. Not good for the Alpha driver, but
Oh,
he does have a comfortable margin to the driver behind him, who is Banat, so he will recover and come out on track in the same position as when he left. But yeah, the difficult conditions are catching out even the most experienced drivers here. Couple had a massive lockup going into the second part of the Wiener chicane as they all come through the section just before Aqua Minerale coming through turn 8 now. This is going to be an interesting section in the wet. I'm going to be curious to see how the drivers manage their braking. It's going to be very, very difficult with ABS off, especially as Baba gets very sideways behind the Red Bull of Akash Sonawane. Black Sheep has done a fantastic job of moving himself up into the top 6. He's in a good position to scrap some points from some of the top drivers if they make a mistake. And just seeing a lot of mistakes being made on track. But a good safety car restart, and Harry has also managed to stay close to the pack. He can benefit from Baba's penalties up ahead of him as Baba goes very, very wide into Rivatsa 1, but manages to recover well to have a good first lap after the safety car restart. And yeah, Danish has cut down massively on the gap ahead. It's now at just over 3/10, just under 3/10 now. So doing a fantastic job on those intermediate tires, really coming alive for Tanish. And Helium definitely is going to be peering in his rearview mirror every once in a while now.
definitely. I think the game is not over yet. I think this Grand Prix just started right now with these conditions, looking at how difficult it is getting for the drivers to maintain that traction under some of these slower corners. It's not going to be an easy win for Helium at the moment. Tanish is not making any mistake at this point. Could you give me a second while I take care of some personal issues?
Yeah, sure. I've got you covered, man. As we get a yellow flag in sector 2. Oh, Baba has spun while we weren't looking there, but he now finds himself at the back of the grid and 11 seconds off. But surely another safety car period will surely is right around the corner. As Harry picks up his first 3-second time penalty for track limits, that's going to be a little bit less frequent in these wet conditions as drivers will be trying to not get on the curb as much as possible as Tanish gets on the curb. Definitely a little bit of an ironic moment there from myself. But yeah, Tanish doing a really good job of staying within Helium's slipstream. The important thing with wet conditions is you don't have DRS, so the only way the driver is going to be making an overtake in these conditions is by slipstreaming and using their ERS. It's a kind of makeshift DRS, if you will, so a lot of these drivers will be trying to dump as much energy into getting those overtakes done in difficult conditions. Imola already a very difficult track to overtake at, and the wet conditions without DRS will make that even more difficult. So it's going to be challenging to make up any kind of ground now for any of these drivers. Making an overtake is going to be quite the challenge, quite the obstacle for these guys. But more difficult things have happened. So I would put nothing past these boys just to get a couple more points, and Couple and Helium especially will be trying to hang on to their positions for as long as possible. Try not to make many mistakes and just try to make the most of this race weekend when the championship leader is unfortunately not able to participate. So it's going to be all about trying to cut that deficit at the top as Tanish gets all over the back of Helium. Helium going very, very defensive very early on. Tanish will have to go round the outside, and he doesn't do so, manages to keep it on track as Helium pressured him all the way off the track, and that gives a chance for Aradhya to slip into the fray as well. He'll be, rubbing his hands and licking his lips at the opportunity of getting involved in this battle. Any kind of incident with those front two will mean that he automatically slips into a P1 position. So interesting battle there. Good defense from Helium. Went defensive very early, but I think that was in retrospect a good decision from the Aston Martin driver as Tanish was on full attack, and they all hold position for now. Great racing between everyone. Ooh, as Tanish gets very,
And
very
yeah,
sideways. Welcome back, Haphazard.
I'm back and I see the action is getting even more interesting. I think Aradhya is back into the top three right now. He's currently looking at the way he's driving. I think, well, technically I should say the top four are back into the fight because Kapil is right behind Aradhya. Everyone is looking for Helium to make one mistake, or for the guy for anyone in the top four to make one mistake so that they can capitalize on it. It's important right now to ensure that these mistakes are these small mistakes that end up popping up in the first few laps, they don't repeat it, because again, I won't sorry about that. I just got a text message.
No issues. Tanish is still prowling on the attack, just 3/10 off, and at this point he will be utilizing that extra ERS that he would have saved during the safety car restarts. He's probably at 100% battery. Now he's at 63. Yeah, I'm predicting that all these drivers will be using a little bit of ERS to keep within that slipstream. The last thing that you want to do is drop outside that slipstreaming kind of distance, maybe 5-6 tenths, maybe more. But yeah, when running these high downforce setups, they're not going to be getting any kind of advantage from top speed whatsoever. So it's going to be all about using their energy, and you can see all these guys were usually very conservative with their ERS. Aradhya, Kapil, Tanish are all having to use a little bit of it to stay within the delta of the drivers ahead. And a little bit of a gap is opening up now between P4 and P5. Banath about 3.6 seconds behind this front running group here. But these four guys have looked absolutely inseparable for the entirety of this race. They've just been within a second of each other for large durations of it. And yeah, it's really, really boiling down now as to who is going to make the move, who is going to capitalize on the other person's mistake. Black Sheep absolutely sending it through the chicane. They're trying to make up all the time possible. He's looking fast, he's looking racy, and he's right on Banath's diffuser. He'll be looking to make the overtake soon. Banath, definitely a master of his craft as well, has definitely improved a lot over the last couple of months, and he is quite experienced with Imola as well, but the wet conditions are making it challenging for the Haas driver. Has got a little bit of advantage now, 6/10 or so, but Black Sheep is on the attack and he'll look to make that P5 position his own, but he has to make sure not to make a mistake in the chase because Akash is also right behind him. The battle at the front is exactly the same as it was for the last couple of laps. Everybody's just trying to stay with each other, not trying to make mistakes. It's going to be a case of who cracks first under the pressure, and if Tier 1 has shown anything is that all of these guys are pretty good at handling pressure. So I think it's going to be a while before we see another mistake. That couple lockup was a very rare occurrence in itself.
But it's important to note that even after couple locked up, he didn't lose a lot of time to Aradhya. Again, these mistakes, again, if these mistakes don't end up causing them 1 or 2 seconds, I don't think they're very costly mistakes. And it's just important to make sure, if you are making mistakes, you're good enough to save your car, because again, keeping your car within the gap of within 1 second, or keeping your front wing as close as you can to the rear wing of these guys ends up helping the driver following, because it just ends up ramping up pressure. Once you are under pressure, that's when you start making more mistakes, and it's important for couple to keep the pressure up, because Aradhya will end up making some mistake at some part of the race, and that's when he will have to go for an overtake. That's the one move he will. That's the one chance he'll get, looking at how how hard it is to overtake right now without DRS in these wet conditions. The mistakes are the only things, are the only situations where we'll see any overtakes. And Kapil again is just within 6 tenths of Aradhya. Aradhya just ended up losing some pace to Tanish ahead, but again Tanish still keeping Helium in his within that 4 tenths worth of a gap. I
Yep.
wonder when these intermediate tires are going to start to die out a bit on these drivers. What do you think? Do you think these tires are going to die soon?
When we had the inter race at Silverstone a couple of weeks ago, I think I remember my teammate going the entire race distance on one set of inters. With these conditions, tire strategy, and sort of tire
Guys,
requirements
sorry to
from.
cut you off. My power
Yep.
just went out, so just giving you advanced notification if the stream abruptly stops.
Yep, we will keep you updated if that is the case. As it stands, 19 laps in, and I'm really loving this battle between Tanish and Helium right now. It's not quite as, it's not all fireworks and popcorn. It's kind of just it's kind of the mental mind games that Tanis is playing. He's losing a little bit of time on corner exits. He seems to be having a lot of wheel spin, but he's making up that time somewhere. Tanis definitely a veteran in Tier 1, and again getting very, very sideways, going through Vietnam chicane, coming through Tosa now. One of those corners where it's easy to lose the rear end. Again, squirrely under traction, but somehow he's managing to make up that time again somewhere. And this kind of this mental duel going on between Helium and Tanis right now. It's really amazing to watch. It's uh
Definitely. I mean, both of them are equally matched at this point because, again, Helium is very quick in that first sector. I wonder, most probably that's because of the dirty air that Helium is generating, maybe messing up Tanish. But Tanish is gaining so much time out of that second and third sector that he's able to, keep Helium in his range. And again, this one long straight that we have here at Imola, it's not as long as something like Russia, but again, Imola is long enough. And with DRS you'll see. And is it the yellow flag? Is that somebody retiring in the pits? That looks to
Yeah, that was
be.
Babaji who just retired.
Oh yes, okay. That's right. So what I was saying is, yeah, again, this is a pretty long straight, and with DRS, it's an easy move down into the Tamburello chicane, and without DRS, of course, is going to help, Tanish gain a lot of time. That's what's happening here. Is Tanish is, of course, losing time in sector 1 around the first few sequence of corners, but he's gaining a lot of time in that DRS straight. That is where Helium you know can't get him out, or can't lose him, is because of that one big straight. The split stream effect is so high that Tanish is just able to maintain that gap properly. And you can see right now, coming down to this chicane, he's able to maintain that 5 tenths of a gap, but he'll lose some time around here because of these chicanes. And no, unfortunately, he still gets to keep that gap. I wonder if he's going to use some of his ERS. Again, these guys have 72% worth of 72% of ERS, and it looks like Tanish is readying up to go for a move right here. It's they're winding up to the last corner. Tanish is just 4 tenths behind Helium. He's going to have the benefit of split stream. He is using some ERS, not dumping all of it. I wonder if he's just planning. No, he's not planning to go for a move. If he was, he would have probably used a lot of his ERS. But again, the question is, do you want to go for a move right now, dump your ERS, and lose some of that precious ERS, which will be useful later in the race? I believe we might see, if the conditions stay as it is, we might see Tanish probably trying to go for a move in the last 2-3 laps of this race. Is Dan, could you confirm if the raining has stopped or not? I don't think I
It's
see any drop
still
for
raining. It is
Suda.
still raining.
Yeah, so I don't think we'll be seeing a dry condition probably at the end of this race. I think we'll most likely, if push if again, if the conditions still remain the same, we might see drivers trying to go to the extremely wet tires. But again, that's a long way out right now, looking at the
condition couple gets a penalty, something you can easily rack up in wet conditions is a penalty, and that's going to mess up his race. Aradhi is actually doing a fantastic job of keeping Tanish, again, keeping himself in Tanish's range, because one small mistake, where let's say Tanish goes wide into a gravel trap at turn 5, uh, at turn 5 and 6, and Arath is looking for an easy overtake coming down to turn 7. So yeah, one of the key aspects of this track I like is the amount of gravel trap it has. You know, it is one of those tracks where if you make one mistake, the track will punish you for it. It's not an easy mistake. Okay, someone goes off, there's a runoff area available for people. You have to make sure that you're gonna stop properly. Otherwise, you're just gonna lose out a lot of time because of these gravel traps. Yeah, and so
Yeah,
we just
absolutely. Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
just having to sort out a technical issue in the background now, but my microphone was dying or something or other. But I'm back. Sorry if I missed much. But yeah, you've been doing a fantastic job of keeping us up to date with the action going on. And yeah, Tanish is he's really pushing, man. Helium is doing a fantastic job of keeping Tanish behind. But Tanish, those rear tires, as you can see now on the telemetry at your bottom left of your screen, those rear tires are now starting to get a little bit on the light green side. Those inters are starting to show their age a little bit. I think we went to the inters at lap 8 or lap 9. So now we are reaching kind of the sort of the 30-40% range of the actually no, maybe the early 20s, mid 20s, let's say, of the inters. So yeah, it's
but
going
I
to be.
don't think it's enough to get another pit on the pit stop. There's not enough time or laps left for people to regain that 30 seconds of regain 30 seconds of time that they'll lose within those pit stops. So again, it's just that these drivers will have to work with these tires now. There's nothing that they can do. They'll have to keep these tires on till the end. They'll have to manage their cars. They'll have to ensure that they don't get any warnings to track limits. I think that is something which is important for these drivers in the top 3, because again, Couple has a penalty, but these top 3 drivers do not have the penalty. I mean, imagine if Helium gets penalty, that's going to change this race completely. It's going to put Tanish up into the top step, and one penalty or one mistake from these guys will end up destroying their race. I wonder, again, Couple is keeping his eyes on the prize, but it's just going to take some lousy mistakes by the top 3 for him to actually try to challenge for a win here.
Tanish is doing a fantastic job. I keep coming back to him because he seems to be making little tiny mistakes here and there, running a little bit wide, maybe getting a little bit of wheel spin, but then he finds the pace somewhere, whether it be mid corners, apex speeds, maybe it's higher than Helium's, or maybe he's just dumping a lot of ERS. I don't think he is. I think he's been doing a fantastic job of keeping his ERS under control as well. Yep, he's got well in excess of he was just in excess of 50% there. It's just dropped a bit, but it's also regenerating quite fast because these guys are having to lift and brake a little earlier than normal, so there's a longer braking period, so they're getting a little bit more energy. There's a big slap of oversteer there, and you can see the minute there's a little tiny mistake, he just gets a little bit on the ERS to kind of make that time up again. I'm assuming Helium also has to be doing the same thing. While in the lead, he's not going to be conserving all the ERS in the world. He has got clean air up ahead, but you can see he's also making little tiny mistakes, getting a little bit too much on the inside curb there, going into Upper Minerale. But yeah, these guys, especially these top 4, are doing a valiant job of keeping close to each other. Tanish making little mistakes, they're having to keep it within the lines, and Tanish
just loses a lot of pace. And this is gonna be the moment for Aradhya as he tries to go for a move on the inside. He's gonna have to make sure he brakes properly, and he pushes Tanish a little wide. Again, these cars are running with partially old intermediates, so there's a very high chance if a person is gonna go for a move on the inside by understeer into you, and it's something that Tanish has to realize. And now looks like they're gonna go 3 wide into this corner. Couple goes onto the grass, and it just looked like Kapil has to back out of that, but and Aradhya spins off, and Aradhya's into the gravel trap. I think
Three
Yes,
into
that's
one doesn't happen, lads. 3 into 1 just doesn't happen. DRS has been enabled, which means the circuit is drying up. We are seeing the first couple of guys bid
whoa.
for the soft tires. Wow, this race is really evolving. Assuming Aradhya Gupta had brought out a safety car there, that would have been the strategy of dreams for Black Sheep, Akash, and Harry. He would have pitted the optimal
Mhm.
time, basically gotten a free pit stop. But Aradhya continues in the race quite far back behind these top four. But wow, what a race that we have on our hands right now. 3 wide going into turn one. Luckily, Kapil, well, I wouldn't say luckily, but Kapil backs out just to keep that little element of safety. Didn't want to bin the race right there as Aradhya got a little bit too keen in making that defense. But the battle started coming through Rivatsas 1 and 2 and pretty much carried all the way down to turn one. That's the kind of action that we expect in wet conditions, and it delivered. Guess what? Helium now has a little bit of breathing room. He's got 1.2 seconds now, and you feel like a load has been lifted off, but the load is going to be applied again as everybody dives into the pit lane. Tanis with a full lock up both wheels. Hopefully that isn't a penalty for him. Yep, he seems to have timed it perfectly well. The Ferrari driver getting a brilliant
Oh,
entry
Black
into
Sheep
the
gets
pit
the
lane there.
penalty.
Black
Black Sheep
Sheep
gets
gets the
another
penalty.
penalty. That's not going to help him out right now in the race. But yeah, as you said, everyone's diving into the pits because it's time to go out on softs now. And I wonder if Black Sheep's going to get a big shot. Maybe he's going to challenge for the top two positions. I think Black Sheep's going to get. He's
Oh, Black
just
Sheep.
coming around
Black
the
Sheep has
street.
just Black Sheep has jumped
Uh,
Aradhya in the pit. That was
yeah.
expected, but is he going to jump Banat? He is going to jump Banat as well, and he's going to be right on the
Wow.
diffuser of Kapil, and he's going to have warmed up tires. So for this opening lap after the rainy conditions have just dissipated, he's going to have much warmer tires for at least a lap. So he's going to be on full attack now. You
Definitely.
can see his his ERS is reduced quite a lot. It was on 75 coming across the last corner, and now it's at 50. Now it's regenerating a little bit, but yes, he was on full push for that sector one, trying to close the gap, and this is going to be prime position for Black Sheep to get a podium. I don't want to jinx him yet. Maybe Dan, this would be a good time to go to some other driver. We have jinxed Black Sheep a couple of times in the past, so maybe it would be wise to maybe go somewhere else. And we have another brilliant view here. The couple has the best seat in the house for this battle, which is pretty much reset itself. Helium now finding himself 5 tenths ahead of Tanish, and it's back to square one in terms of this whole mental mind game. And Tanish has to count himself very, very lucky there. That mistake could have very nearly cost him 2 positions within the span of a couple of corners, but now it seems to have worked out quite well in his favor. Aradhya will feel a little hard done by that contact as Kapil picks up
Oh,
a
wow.
3 second time penalty. That is
I think he
very
picked up an additional 3 second time penalty. He has 6 seconds now. So Banat is probably looking to get P3 out of this. Uh, I'm pretty sure Banat is looking to get a P3. He's just 3 seconds away from a couple at the moment. If he can keep that gap going, we'll see Banat jump not only one driver but two at
side
the
by side.
moment.
Couple side by
Wow.
side with Tanish going into the win of
Oh,
chicane.
and
Tanish caught
Tanish
out and
just
2
loses so much
positions
time.
in one corner, and Black Sheep
And
will
he
get
gets,
another
oh my
position.
god,
My word, what a move there
what
by
a
Black Sheep. He'll get
move.
2 positions there. So Kapil briefly went up into P2, and now he's down into P4 as Tanish gets a good exit
Oh,
out of Tosa and makes the most of it. Wow, I'm struggling for breath here. This is a absolutely
amazing racing.
brilliant race. His couple
Oh,
is
and
going
they're
side
still
by
racing
side
into them.
again.
Oh
Oh,
my,
to take it away, haphazard. I'm trying to catch my
yeah, I
breath here.
mean,
The F1 gods
my
have
god, that
blessed
was
me with that beautiful camera angle, man.
yeah,
Oh,
I
wow.
mean, you could see that these first the turns 2, 3, 4 are such complicated corners that if you have a bad exit out of one of these corners, that someone from behind can easily go for a move there, and that's been proven. Kapil tried to go for a move with Tanish. Tanish had a bad exit. Kapil had a pretty compromised exit because of Tanish, and then you could just see Black Sheep just passing and blazing right through both of these. But now the important part is now TRS is activated for Tanish and Kapil at the moment, and Black Sheep is currently sitting in P2 without DRS. Unfortunately for Tanish, Black Sheep was just a bit too far ahead. But for now, I think the important part for Tanish right now is to make sure he doesn't make any mistakes like that one in the previous lap, because Black Sheep has penalties. Tanish has no necessity to push or to go for any risky moves when it comes to overtaking Black Sheep. Black Sheep, of course, would want to defend this position as much as he can because, of course, he has, I believe, a 6 second time penalty, if I'm not wrong. One of the two drivers to have that penalty, the second one being Kapil. And Yes, while I'm speaking again, I'm also taking a look at Banat, and it looks like Banat's also in a comfortable position where he might be able to get couples P4 if these things remain same. We only have 4 laps left, 4 laps. It feels like a sprint race right now. It's been a 6-7 lap shootout till the end, and it just looks like Helium gap has been increasing per lap. Helium goes for the fastest lap, might be able to do something about it. And yes, Tanish does go for 116.44, definitely because of the assist of DRS. And Tanish will go for a move on the outside. He's going to go on the screen and he pushes Black Sheep out of that corner. Of course, that's a very difficult corner. A couple tries to go for a move here as well because of Black Sheep's very dreadful exit. And Black Sheep still trying to fight out. Coming around to turn 6, but unfortunately had to recede that position to Kapil. Again, it's a matter of if you're gonna get overtaken in turn 2, it's better to leave that position to the overtaking driver because you're gonna mess up your entry into turn 3, turn 4, and that's gonna give another driver behind you the chance to overtake you. And I think this is something that some of these drivers have to realize at this point is if someone's overtaking you, you have to sort of work with them so that you can retain the position he's leaving behind. Otherwise, you'll probably see someone getting an opportune moment or an opportune overtake on you. What do you feel about that, Excel?
Says go Black Sheep go. He's put on a brilliant drive this race so far, starting in P10, pretty much plumb last at one point during the race, but now he is fighting back on the charge, and I think him and Kapil are on the same level of penalty. So if he can get the position done on Kapil, actually he's in a very good position because Kapil has picked up 6 seconds as you mentioned before. So now Kapil has an added incentive to get a little bit of time. He has to increase the gap to Black Sheep, otherwise Black Sheep will pretty much actually no, he might not steal this podium because Banat is
Yeah, because
also.
Bharat is right there without any penalties, and he can easily get Kapil's position once the race settles down. So that's what I'm worried about because Kapil and Black Sheep right now need to work together because all this fighting is allowing Banat to stay with them, and this is something that they'll have to realize.
Kapil picked up
And
9
Kapil
seconds
gets
now.
another penalty. That's just going to destroy his entire race at this point. Yeah, so Kapil has 9 seconds now. He's going to have to make a decision of whether how much he's going to fight for it, how many positions he's going to lose because of his fighting. This is a difficult position for Kapil, of course. Penalties is not something fun. But yeah, right now we can see by
You
the
can see
looks
just
of
how
it.
hard Kapil's been pushing as well. His ERS is all the way down in the single digits. I've never seen Kapil's ERS so low before. But you can see he has been having to push pretty much flat out for the last couple of laps to get that gap up, but he's not been able to do it because he's currently not stuck behind Tanish, but he's got that DRS up ahead of him. But he also knows that one mistake, one track limit too wide, and he's going to be picking up another 3 seconds as he did there just a couple of laps ago. But more importantly, one mistake and Black Sheep is going to be slipping in, and he's right there. He's on the charge, and guess what? Black Sheep has just pulled clear of Banat. He's 3 seconds clear of Banat. So if Black Sheep can retain this position as it currently stands and build that gap behind him, he'll be able to steal a podium away from Kapil, which will be unfortunate for the Alfa Romeo driver as he's not really helping his case out too much as he runs wide at turn 8 again. A place where he's run wide a couple of times actually, even during the race, during the wet stint, he was running wide a little bit there. But what a breathless race this has been.
Yeah,
I've absolutely enjoyed commentating. It feels like a
just
last minute football goal kind of thing, you know. It
oh,
just
and
feels like
Black Sheep just gets one more penalty out of it because he's gotten 6 seconds worth of penalty. So by my calculations right now, I think Kapil will drop down to P6 and Akash will go, of course, to P5. And I feel like Black Sheep is gonna again go down to it's gonna be P5 or something. P5 for Black Sheep as well, if because of these penalties. Again, you have to understand that Banat and Akash are not too far. When Black Sheep goes for a move on the outside, of course he has DRS right now. It's going to be easy move. And again, Kapil doing the smart thing and trying to not fight it too hard. And again he looks like Black Sheep had a pretty bad exit at that corner, and Kapil had a chance to go for an overtake, but again just decides not to. It would be a cruel move to go for right now. He's got 9 seconds already. One more mistake and he's out of the race completely with the DNF. That's something he doesn't want at the moment.
Again,
He
Kapil.
realizes deep down that after that 9 seconds, I think the chances of him staying on that podium are slim to none. So now I think he's just, throwing the kitchen sink and hoping something sticks, because he's hoping secretly deep down that Black Sheep picks up another 3 second time penalty just by pushing him around everywhere, kind of forcing him into mistakes. But also, more importantly, Black Sheep will be hoping that Banat picks up a 3 second time penalty somewhere. What would be the chances if he picks up at the exit of Rivatsa too? That would be scenes as Helium rounds the final corner. He has stood brave in the face of all that pressure. Tanish has been pretty much on his ass, pardon my language, for the whole race, but he does well to retain that P1. Tanish has finished P2. Let's see how the positions organize themselves. Banath will pretty much jump Black Sheep and Kapil to finish P3, and Kapil drops down to P4 or P6 as a result of his penalties. Akash also jumps Kapil. It's unfortunate for the Alfa Romeo driver. This is not a weekend to remember the Alpha boys who are finishing P6 and P8. But Harry, I think, going for the fastest lap, maybe this will give us something to watch, as he's absolutely gunning it everywhere. He's green in sector 1, purple in sector 2, and he's running out of ERS, though maybe he might get it. This last two corners will be crucial. Ooh, and he invalidates there. I don't know if the game registers that as fastest lap. He will gets a good exit out
I
of the
think he'll
final
get a
corner.
fastest lap there.
Will it be fastest lap? Ooh, we'll have to see
We
on the
don't
next
know.
screen.
Yeah.
We'll have to see on the finishing screen. But what a race! It's been absolutely
But
brilliant. Kind of monotonous at the beginning, and it really heated up towards the end there.
here's an interesting fact. I think Helium just led all 32 laps of this race. I didn't think I've seen anyone retain that P1 position from him at any point of this race, and a pretty fantastic display of just completely handling pressure and ensuring that he doesn't make any mistake in any position.
I think more
Sorry,
importantly than
it's
that, I don't think Harry got the fastest lap on the final lap. I think Aradhya still retains his
like
fastest lap.
yeah,
Yep,
yeah, yeah.
a 1:15.8. So yeah, great race there. Helium finishes P1, started P1, finished P1, retained the race lead well, and done well under pressure. So great drive there from the Aston Martin drivers. Tanish started P2, finishes P2. Again, he would have been a little bit hard. I felt a hard done by, because he received that pressure towards the end from Black Sheep, and Kapil would ideally not have wanted to got into that battle, but he retains P2 in the end. Anyway, Banat, after a fairly undercover race, but finishes on the podium. So something to take home for the Hearts boys today. Unfortunately, Moto isn't here, but Banat can celebrate after a fairly silent race. Black Sheep, great comeback drive. P10 to P4, he'll have wanted that podium place, but that 3 second penalty at the end really ruined his chances there. Akash, it was a decent race from the Red Bull driver. Couple in P6 will feel very, very hard done by, because at one point he was up into P2. I think I actually know why he didn't. He dropped back behind Aradhya in that pit window earlier on in the race. I believe uh, there is an advanced setting in F1 where you can time the pit exit, so you can release the paddle, and then I believe there is some. It's an assist of some sort. The pit exit, pit release assist, I believe, was turned on. So Kapil didn't have any control over his pit exit, and the game just decided to
Oh,
take it into its own account, and Kapil lost out a few positions there. But let me just go ahead and drag some of these guys into the comms box. So we've got Helium here, and let's see if I can get a couple more guys here. Let's get Tanish here as well. Uh, yeah, I think we can get started with Helium though in the meantime.
yeah, so Itzel, do you want to take over Helium's interview?
Yep, absolutely. I will get us started here as I'm trying to get the other two boys into. Oh, actually, one of them's here. But Helium, great drive from you. Talk us through your race. I guess that's the best way to get started, because that was a lot of pressure that you received from Tanish pretty much throughout the whole race, especially during that wet stint. So I think you can talk us through this best.
So yeah, it was a very nice race. The only dumb thing I did is I went on a dry setup. So the wet stint was very hard for me, as you could see. The only thing that was keeping me ahead was that I had a lot less downforce probably than Tanish, which was keeping me ahead in the long straight. Other than that, I think I was just trying to keep my car on the track. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Great points from you, man. Pretty much dominated from lap one, even though you say that you struggled during the wet stint. It didn't look like that on stream. We definitely caught all of that action as Tanish was just losing his rear out of every corner. We'll talk to him in a second.
Yeah,
But
I was
he
saying
was
that.
he was still managing to keep up with you. He was just getting a much better drive out of some corners. He was just managing to keep that delta under half a second in most places. And then you would have that occasional oversteer moment and then drop back a little. But then he clawed it back anyway. But regardless, you led the race from lap 1 to lap 32, as Half King pointed out, just as he crossed the line. So dominant drive from you, P1, and I think that brings you a little bit closer to Moto in that drivers' championship. So this championship is going to go down to the line. Congratulations, man. Well done.
Thank you.
We move now to P2, who is Tanish. Hello, how are you doing, Tanish?
Yep, I am good. I am good. Although I was planning to get that win, but okay, that was still a great drive from Helium. A couple of incidents, I would say, for me, but I don't know what to say.
You were, I think, a part of two of the biggest talking points in this race. You can definitely have some fun going back and watching the stream later because not only were you part of that three wide move going into turn one, where unfortunately Aradhya Gupta spun, but you were also part of that incredible melee in Sector 1 at the end of Sector 1 going into the Villeneuve chicane when you, Couple, and Black Sheep were pretty much exchanging positions like nobody's business. Talk us through that.
Yep, that was like I was first into a battle with Helium. I was trying to keep the pressure on him, and I wanted to get past him quickly, but I think I lost. Yeah, I just messed up my turn one first chicane, so it gave Couple a chance and Black Sheep as well to just overtake me. And the next corner, I think Couple and I think it was turn 7. Yeah, turn 7, Couple and Black Sheep got into a battle which just helped me get in front of Couple, and that was a really good battle with him. So yeah, I really enjoyed that.
Yep, seemed like a fun race for you. I think the setup, was it something to do with the setup? You were losing the rear a lot. Was it just the wet conditions maybe proving a little bit challenging?
I don't know. I think it's just the suspension being very aggressive as I was running 1.3 compared to 1.5 from others. So yeah, I think the car was a bit oversteery, I would say, but still that was like the car was really a challenge to drive. To be fair.
Well, high risk, high reward, and life favors the brave. So P2 for you in the race today. Well done, man. That was a great
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
And we are still yet to get Banath into the podium interview. He is the driver who finished P3. I will try once again to get him into the podium. I think he might be unavailable for the podium interview today. He was mentioning that he had some work coming up immediately afterwards. I think Banath won't be able to make the podium interview today, but yeah, I think if talking from Banat's perspective, I think it would have been a pretty incognito race for him, just trying to keep up with the rest of the pack, trying to make the best of the safety car restarts, and just trying to keep with the front pack as much as possible. I think at max he was 4 or 5 seconds behind the rest of the pack, so just kept a had a clean race, kept a cool head, and yeah, he benefited from the misfortune of penalties of drivers ahead, and he picks up P3 today. So unfortunate not to have you in the comms box, Banath, but we'll talk to you another time regarding future podiums as well. And I think that's going to be it from us today. Another great race. Did not seem that as we got to lap 20. It did seem like another wet Imola snooze fest, but it definitely didn't turn out that way. I'm guessing you would you would agree with me there, haphazard.
Oh, definitely. This was not what I was expecting. Although we didn't see a fight for P1, the fight for P2, P3, P4, people, just three drivers being 5 tenths, 4 tenths just behind each other is very interesting. And in the end, when the track shifted back to the softs, the confusion of whether to go to softs or whether to stay out, there was proper, entertainment. Something I always want to see out of a wet race, some interchangeable conditions. And this just race just ended up delivering today. It's perfect.
Absolutely, I couldn't have summed it up any better. And it was kind of like that plane flying away from a nuclear GIF is what Helium probably wouldn't have seen in his rearview mirror as there was pandemonium building behind him. But that'll be all from us at IRC today. Thank you very much for Tier-1 and tomorrow weekend. sure to have more racing coming up very soon, as we have Bahrain coming up next weekend, and then Kota, Circuit of America, the weekend after that. Be sure to have you there as well. Make sure to follow us on the socials as are on your screen right now. Make sure to join in and on the description. Thank you once again, and that will be it from us tonight. Take care very much, and good